Well, hello and welcome to a Talk the Catch sea angling podcast, the very first episode. Now, there isn't actually another guest on the other seat. This is basically just me, Jake, Muscle Fishing Channel, basically giving my introduction really, saying hello, what this is going to be about, and what you can expect from this new sea angling podcast. So, an introduction to myself. I'm 26 years old. I live in Eastbourne, but I grew up in South London. Now, when I was a child, I'd done fishing all my life, but when I was a kid, all my fishing was coarse fishing. You know, fishing for roach, rudd, perch, chub, literally barbel, anything I can get my hands on, carp as well. And that was what the basis to my fishing was, basically. Used to do a lot of different club lakes. Dad's a big angler as well, but not sea angling at all. All my life it was all coarse fishing, basically growing up. So we won't go into that much detail about that, but I will talk about how I got into sea angling. So my nan lived in Eastbourne when I was a kid. So every time I'd come down to hers, this must have been about 8 years old, I suppose, when she moved down here. I can't quite remember, but something like that. When she moved down here, all I ever wanted to do when I got here was go sea fishing. I loved sea fishing. Never knew what I was going to catch. It was all brand new to me. But I obviously didn't have very much gear. But the first thing we'd do when we came down to my nan's, we'd grab 10 to 20 lugworm. And as soon as I got some nans, I'd rush past her, say, hello, Nan. Right, I'm just going into the fishing gear. So she had all my rods and my white tackle box full of my sea angling gear. But couple of beach casters and a couple of cheap reels. So I'll go straight into the shed and I'd get them out and sort of set them up for the day. Now, coarse fishing, you do not really, well, you probably should, but you don't tend to look at the wind, the weather, the tides, because there's just no need to. You can fish for what you want, coarse fishing wise. You can fish whatever you want all the time. It's great for that. But sea fishing, you sort of should look at the wind and the weather and the tide that I've now learnt along the line. But either way, all I wanted to do was fish. So regardless of the weather, I used to come up and say, grab my stuff from my nan's, leave the house and get down to the beach. And sometimes I'd be greeted by a lovely flat calm sea. Sometimes I'd be greeted with 20-foot waves and think, what am I doing? And other times, you'd get that sort of few waves, few murky bits, but it was always fine. You could fish it. My catches, well, what did they really include? Not a lot in the daytime, funnily enough. I do remember catching one very nice place once. I was with my dad fishing at a place called Langley Point. And at low tide, there's like a little jetty, I suppose, which runs off the beach, and it goes out 35 yards, I suppose. And that used to be my favourite way of fishing, because in my head as a kid, I'm thinking, I'm on the end of a sort of pier. I can cast a bit further if you like. So surely I'm going to catch something better. So one of my first decent catches from the shore was quite a nice place. Looking back on it, I don't know if it was a big place, but for me at the time, it was a big one. It's probably only a pound, but for me, very, very big fish, and that got me very excited. But most of the time, it was whiting, pouting, very small little flounders, dabs, that sort of thing, all off the shore. Most of it would be at night. I just remembered basically nighttime would fall, and the fish would come onto the feed, so I thought daytime's pointless. All I'd catch sometimes in the summer is mackerel, but nothing else. But yeah, at night time, the place would come alive, and you'd be getting fish after fish, albeit tiny whiting and tiny pouting and little tiny little things, little gobies and stuff like that. And I used to think that was fantastic. It was all brand new to me. It was all very exciting. But to the most sort of avid, experienced angler, if you like, sea angler, that would have looked not very good. But anyway, that was my sort of how I got into sea angling. As a kid, I'd come down, see my nan, go fishing by the sea down at Eastbourne, and I'd catch a few fish. And I did decide I absolutely loved it. One thing I also had as a kid was an obsession with kayaks. Now, I was never allowed a kayak as a kid for good reason. I couldn't swim, didn't particularly like the water, and neither did my dad either. So it was a good idea to prevent me from getting one at such a young age. But yeah, I did always want a kayak. Main reason to get out further, get out further on the sea and fish the sea in some sort of vessel. Always had that obsession from a very young age. So at the age of, I'd like to say 21. I think it was probably 22 by the time I moved to Eastbourne. But moved down here, and within about 3 or 4 weeks, there was a very small little green kayak sitting on the driveway. I had no idea how to use it. I had no idea where to go with it, and I had no idea if when I set to sea, the tide would take me away or not. I literally knew nothing about the sea. So, as you do, you join your local Facebook group, and that's what I did. Joined the local Facebook kayak fishing group, and so I went on my first sort of trip with them. And that was after I'd had to spend £350 on a dry suit, which was 3 times the amount I paid for the kayak. But I wanted to go out, and I wanted to be safe, and I wanted to enjoy it. And I just thought it was something that I was really going to get into, so certainly did purchase the things that I needed to. We went down a river at Shoreham, River Ada. Didn't catch anything apart from some crabs. I think I missed probably a couple of bites or something. But the bug really was set. I knew it was something I just loved doing. Being on the water, I just loved. It felt right. Even though I don't particularly like swimming, not a very good swimmer. But the kayaking just felt good. It felt free, and I felt like just a sense of my own vessel of my own ship, if you like. So all the other guys, well, not all of them, but most of them had pedal kayaks, and these are called Hobies, most of them. And you sort of move your feet back and forward for propulsion. And I thought, I want one of those. How much are they? And they all sort of came back with 2, 3 grand, 4 grand setups. I thought, okay, that's okay. I'll do that. And a few weeks later, I bought myself a Hobie Outback kayak, and that was that. I was hooked. Went out a lot. Went out with a few people for a while, built up some confidence, got some experience, and then I started going on my own, which I always said I wasn't going to do. But sometimes the way my shifts work, I'm a shift worker, I still am. Sometimes I'm off midweek. Sometimes I'm on an early shift and I finish at 10, 11 in the morning. And it gives me quite a bit of time to do fishing. So I started to go out on my own, sometimes on the kayak. And had some really good catches out of Eastbourne mostly. Caught my first ever ray, which was amazing. Really, there was a video on YouTube actually of me catching that ray. It was at night time. Yeah, I know, nighttime kayak fishing was something I got into quite early on. I am one of them people which will just push the boat out a little, but had an amazing session. I think I caught 9 rays. So from never catching a ray in my life to all of a sudden catching 9 in one evening, it was just absolutely amazing. Caught eels, caught loads of things, plaice, whiting, all over, dogfish, all over that time. When I first started kayak fishing, so that was got hooked very, very quickly. And I've got ADHD, so I do get bored quite quickly, and I like to keep myself doing new things and pushing myself a little bit to keep my brain active. So very quickly started catching quite a bit, and realised that I want to catch bigger things. So I'd travel far, Cornwall, Wales. The list goes on. I started to travel a lot and catch some really lovely fish. One of my sort of great fish, which I really like catching, was a 14-pound pollock down in Cornwall. But on these long journeys, this was when I came across podcasts. And this is sort of what leads me to doing this today, actually. On these long journeys, I'd obviously get bored, and I'd listen to the podcasts about fishing, which the carp company's done, the Corders and the Nash and all of those companies. And they did podcasts really, really well. But there is not one really good podcast for sea angling or boat angling. And I thought, that's something I might be able to do, actually. So the idea sat on me for a while. So we'll park that for a story for a moment. But the idea was there. Done a lot of kayak fishing. Caught a lot of great fish. And then I got talked into buying a Sib, which is a small inflatable boat, for anyone who doesn't know what it stands for. And that's with an outboard engine. So all of a sudden I could go out a lot further, explore new grounds, which I've never explored before. But that brought a brand new set of challenges, different sort of styles of fishing. I had to be wary of more tides, which areas fish better on different tides, and it's just such a learning curve from carp angling, of course, fishing. I haven't been brought up with boats. I've not been brought up with the sea. It was something I had to learn from scratch in my early 20s, which for me was always, I always want to be the best at everything I do. I'm quite competitive, if you like. I'm not afraid to say it. I am a little bit competitive. I do like to be good at what I do, and I like to know everything I can. So it was a bit frustrating at first because there was so much to learn. But, we gained the knowledge and we gained the experience, just through constantly going and a lot of trial and error. Some people were fantastic in helping out and being supportive, and some not so much, but we won't go into that. That was the Sib, and got my dad out on it, which was amazing because I wanted him to experience what I'd experienced, this amazing new area of fishing, which we've not done. So I wanted to get my dad out. I was trying to convince him to buy a kayak, but there was no way he was going to get on the water. His confidence in water was less than mine, and he also hates swimming, which is probably where I get it from. But managed to get him on the Sib. We caught some nice taupe, some pollock, and bits and bobs. It's just awesome. And I was thinking, this is great. I'm really enjoying this sort of boating, but the Sib just didn't sit right with me. I didn't enjoy using it. It was a lot of hassle. I was always worried about the tubes bursting. So I sort of was thinking, what could be an alternative? And then I met a chap called Chris who works with Moretta, and they import Polycraft 300 toughies, which are like polyethylene boats made out of plastic, very strong, durable plastic, which can take up to 15 horsepower engine. And I thought, ooh, that's a bit of me. Had a little look online on YouTube and stuff, looked at videos, and thought, they look great, they look fantastic. It's almost exactly what I'm looking for. I can launch that anywhere because it's light enough. I can have a high power engine. I can have my rod holders all set up, my fish fine. They can look like a great, perfect boat. So we started talking, and that fast forward a while. We had some chats, and he went, "Yeah, this should be great for us because we need to get some promotional content out there. We need to prove the concept of the idea of these new boats because they're imported from Australia, brand new idea across the pond for us. And now I fish out of my Polycraft 300 a lot, and that's gone everywhere with me. That's gone down to Cornwall, it's gone up to Scotland, and I absolutely love it. It's great. I can catch whatever fish I want to catch, basically, and I can pretty much go where anyone else can when the weather's right. So that's sort of where I am at now, if you like, with my fishing journey. It was kayaks, it was sibs, and now it's a Polycraft 300, which is a boat which I absolutely love and probably won't change for a long, long, long time. Currently also studying my day skipper. For those which aren't aware, that's a RYA, Royal Yachting Association? Might not be Royal. Is it Royal? So Yachting Association, I believe, is the second two of the RYA. It probably is Royal Yachting Association, but I don't want to say it is because I'm not actually sure. I'm doing my day skipper theory with them, which is basically learning how to safely navigate a boat, all of its bits and bobs, knots, ropes, safety, and that's a lot to learn. But we'll get there. We'll get that course passed. Also got my radio license, a VHF radio license as well. Did that a little while back, and that was really good. But there was a lot to learn in boating, and so that's kind of where I'm at in my journey with fishing, to be honest. That's an introduction to myself. So just quick overall, really. Moved to Eastbourne, did kayaks, did sibs, did the boat, and now sort of learning all my courses and getting qualified to possibly do it in more of a commercial and more of a job term later down the line. But why start a sea angling podcast is really the reason we're having this podcast today. It's an introduction, of course, to myself, the host, which is obviously me, and just to give you an insight really into the podcast and why I thought of doing it. I've touched on it. There's no sea angling companies, no YouTube channels which are doing it properly. Some are doing it with very cheap equipment, and I actually believe the better the quality the microphone is, the better quality the atmosphere is, the backgrounds. You can really switch off everything else in your life and just listen and imagine these stories, and you get a real set of when you let your imagination go, you get a really vivid image of what people are going through and what they're catching. And it's podcasts are a really incredible thing. I never thought I'd enjoy one, and then I turned one on and I was hooked, and I knew I had to do one with sea angling, and I thought, I think I could probably do quite a good one. Obviously today it's just me talking. There's no one asking me questions. I'm not answering anyone else's questions. It's literally just myself talking to you guys listening a little bit about myself and what to expect with this podcast to come. So we've got some amazing guests lined up. We've got anglers, we've got companies, tackle companies, people which own very big boats, very small boats, people who build boats. Lots of different people were very interested in coming on and having a chat about fishing, which is great because I can talk about fishing all day, and a lot of other people can too. And it's for you guys really listening to learn from these people, to hear their stories as well, so sort of get a background into different people. With the tackle companies come on board, we get a wealth of knowledge out there which is so untapped, and it'd be amazing to get it into a podcast format for years to come for young anglers alike and older anglers as well, just to be able to listen to people and for it to be on there as sort of a memory for a lifetime really, so people can listen back in years to come and sort of reminisce about the days of when they were at their prime. And not only just that, it's really just to share a lot of the information these people have about angling and about the subjects that they're pros at, if you like. So very, very exciting. Really looking forward to getting some guests on here. We've got other YouTubers as well, which will come on and they'll share their stories as to how they got into fishing and different adventures. I could talk about some of my adventures all day long. Some of them are very, very in-depth stories. There's some very funny stories which have occurred. But this podcast isn't for me; it's for you, and it's for other people to showcase their fishing lives, basically. And I really hope it does that. So yeah, that's that really. I would just like to thank all of my followers and subscribers who do subscribe to my mussel fishing channel on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for the support. It means the absolute world. We wouldn't be able to really do this without a little bit of a following, because it'd probably fall flat on its head. And it might do anyway. People in the sea angling world might not enjoy podcasts with my voice, but we shall see. We shall try and make it work, because I think it will be really good. And I do think it will do good for the future as well of angling. So sit back, relax, and put your notifications on. And very soon we will have a guest sitting to the left of me, and we'll be talking fishing, hopefully, for years to come, with new, old, and current anglers, and obviously tackle companies. So thank you for listening to this podcast. You were listening to a Talk the Catch Sea Angling podcast. Thank you very much.